known that an annual meeting run out of a suitcase at the start of the 1980s would be the nearly 3,000 attendee strong annual meeting we see today on this occasion of the SMFM meeting's 40th anniversary. In this video, we celebrate the annual meeting's growth, the ways in which the annual meeting is now science, plus a whole lot more. And most of all, we recognize the amazing involvement of our members over the years that has led to its success. Think about that achievement. The success is yet to come, and know that your participation is always welcome.
As you know, our annual meetings weren't always like this.
The inspiration for starting the annual meeting was positive in one sense and negative in another. Many of us, myself included, were members of an organization called the Society for Gynecologic Investigation. That society became a society which was devoted fundamentally to endocrinology and to basic science. And the people like Dick Paul came to me and said, "We're thinking of starting this new society." And originally I said, "Well, why do we need another society?" And then I thought, well, we really do need another society that can present good clinical research.
The first meetings, I think a couple of them, if I'm not mistaken, were held in a little room at the ACOG National Meeting, and many academic organizations start out that way. After that, we did 3 meetings, perhaps, or 4, in San Antonio.
We met in the ballroom and knew everybody, and if you didn't, somebody made sure that you did. And outside was the Riverwalk, and we all took a walk and had a drink.
The first meeting that we had science presented at, I think we had 30 abstracts. I was the program chair, and we had a very, very sophisticated way to judge them. I spread them out on our living room floor and then put them into an order that would give us a reasonable program. It was a lot simpler and a lot smaller.
I was asked to do the third meeting, and I asked that some of the leaders in maternal-fetal medicine that had just become a board-certified area were the moderators, and that they would be the enforcers. Those people included Dr. Quilligan, Dr. Zussman, Dr. Makowski, Dr. Krastowski, and the ones that had started the subspecialty.
Obstetrics and gynecology was filled with generalists. And all of those generalists thought that they could do everything that those of us who wanted to specialize in complicated pregnancies were trying to figure out how to do better. I really think that one of the major motivating factors for coming was to try to figure out what we could do as a group to establish ourselves as a legitimate entity in the world of obstetrics and gynecology.
Oh my, the meeting has changed so much. I remember some of my first meetings, Dr. Miller and his wife Pat manning the registration booth. And I remember how very nice Pat Miller was to me when I had such nerves about my first poster and my first oral presentation. I remember the personal touches of so many people then, Dr. Dick Paul and his wife Alta, Dr. John Queenan and his wife Carrie, and we got to know the spouses because they were really manning the booths at that time.
When I ran the meeting, I had my secretary, my mother-in-law, my wife, and everybody I could get a hold of to help me organize it, to take the registration money, to organize the abstracts that were submitted. We had to create our own database.
Probably one of the major turning points in the organizational process was our first hire of a person part-time in the late 80s named Pat Starr. She brought order to the organization.
I did 28 meetings with the society. Each one to me just got bigger and better. This was the first meeting I was part of. This is 1989. We met in New Orleans. Now this is when I see Julie Miller has taken over our meeting program. This has the work of Julie Miller. We just saw such growth in abstract submissions and the increase in the postgraduate courses. The challenge always was we would book the host hotel out 5 or so years in advance, and as you'd come up on that meeting, well, there were 5 new components to the meeting, and where can we shoehorn them all in? And miraculously, it always came together.
It was during my presidency that we first introduced an actual exhibit hall. And my colleagues and I will tell you that when we brought that out of the board of directors, it did not go over that well. Our mentors were very disappointed, and they thought it would dilute the science. It did not dilute the science at all, but gave us even more opportunities. These vendors were our partners in providing women's health care. And I think that's what we wanted to show.
Being a vendor at the SMFM conference for us is such a win-win because we get an opportunity to see the referring providers that we work with and really connect and have an opportunity to show what new and different things we're doing.
We select 2 to 3 major conferences in the US each year, and this being one of the major conferences. So we obviously have a bit of a distance to travel each year, but we find that this is one of the best conferences for us. We get to meet directly with a number of OBGYNs, and we get to discuss the product with them and receive some good feedback and excitement from them directly.
Creating a full-time executive director whose name was Dan O'Keefe was, in my opinion, the single biggest thing that changed the society, because we had someone who provided continuity, somebody who could implement change, somebody who created relationships between other societies and our own.
In 2008, we developed our first strategic plan. We've been doing that every year, every 3 years since, and that is the thing that really jettisoned the society forward.
Dan's contributions to making a shift into adding on so many new opportunities with vendors, with size, with inclusiveness of multiple communities, with international communities, and allowing us to grow and expand to take care of the needs of more people. Dan O'Keefe made that happen.
We encourage our members to come to SMFM. I think they realize the value and the educational opportunities that they get at this conference. I'm thrilled that the numbers continue to increase.
My first meeting was in 1983, so I was there when there was a very small booklet of abstracts, and now seeing the abstract process that requires so many reviewers is a testament to the number of training programs we have across the country, training fantastic MFM fellows, and also the ongoing work in the various departments in the field of MFM.
Over the years, you can see an increase in the quality of the studies that are done and a huge expansion in breadth, as well as just the science that comes out is really quickly applicable.
When I first started coming to the annual meeting, it wasn't something that was broadcast online very well. It was something that maybe 1 or 2 people were participating, and I think over time we've developed the idea of a meeting-specific hashtag. We've got sort of an army of people who are all volunteering to produce content as the meeting goes along and help keep the conversation moving. It just sort of has grown upon itself, and now it's a big conversation that the whole world is a part of.
When you talk about growth, many people just think about sheer numbers. But what I think is even more important is that SMFM has grown in influence. People look to us to gauge where high-risk pregnancy is going and what needs to be done.
There's so many different activities, from the board meeting that I just participated in to the various committees like the patient safety, publications committees.
There's not just science, but there are all these other aspects of the meeting that are so just great, particularly for young investigators, where they can meet older scientists, get mentorship with regard to their career, research, or clinical, and it just makes for a really great meeting where you can just learn so much about all aspects of your career.
We have the best postgraduate courses, we have simulation courses, we have hands-on courses that are unique in this field.
We have our foundation board meeting at the annual meeting, fellows presentations on Friday morning. We also have the run on Saturday morning each year. Everyone gets out, has a little exercise with the goal of contributing to the foundation.
My favorite thing to do, though, is to go to the plenaries and to listen to the state-of-the-art science that we get.
The science presented is on the forefront of what becomes practice.
Things like the use of aspirin or the kinds of risk factors that should be considered. The fact that women who've had preeclampsia are at higher risk for cardiovascular disease for the rest of their lives. These are truths that we did not have 10 years ago. So, you know, people say nothing's changed in 50 years. Well, actually, a few things have changed in 50 years, and a lot of it gets debated and analyzed at this meeting.
One of the things that brought me to the society was the mission. I was personally impacted by it. My oldest son was born through the help of an MFM, and the outcome was positive. If an MFM hadn't been present or trained or knowledgeable, probably it would have been a different outcome. The science that is shared at the meeting has made a difference, not just in my life, but in the life of so many.
I traveled so far because the Society for Maternal-Fetal Medicine is really, I would say, the best pregnancy meeting in the world. It is here where the best work is presented. So here you hear the great studies first, and it's also where you want to present your work.
Everyone looks out to see if they got an oral or an abstract here. It's the gold standard.
Everybody has a shot at it, but to get on the program here, they've got to understand the scientific method.
The best 8 abstracts are presented first. That is really independent of any politics. And that felt really great, that you could submit from outside and still, based on the quality of your work, be selected.
I do a lot of education around the United States, at tertiary centers all the way down to our critical access hospitals. And so for me, bringing this level of research and information that's out there, in particular for me, the postgraduate courses, of hearing it from the actual researchers and the principal investigators and the people that are really the leaders in maternal-fetal medicine, and taking it back to not just the nursing community, but our physician community as well.
Any time that we can improve our evidence-based practice is going to eventually impact maternal mortality and morbidity, and that's what we all want.
Sometimes they're just getting together with people from larger medical centers and they're exchanging ideas and developing collaborations and saying, what if we did this, what if we did that? And that's the way things move forward in medicine.
Shortly after Roe versus Wade was enacted, and people were lining up on both sides, with guns drawn almost. In Louisiana, there were local laws that would prohibit a woman from getting an abortion. And the society had the intestinal fortitude to cancel their meetings there. And when the organization did this, it didn't please everybody. There's nothing quite as divisive as this could have been, and the leadership just didn't let it. We had leadership that was tough enough to do the right thing.
The annual meeting for the Society has played a really important and critical role in the maternal mortality and morbidity reduction advocacy that we've done as a subspecialty.
We've had a very big impact in putting the MBAC into maternal-fetal medicine and showcasing the really atrocious issue of maternal mortality and morbidity in our country.
We mapped out a plan, and every year at this annual meeting we address that plan, where we're making strides, where we need to disseminate information to our membership and glean from them, how we can do more. This is the place where things come together to generate that excitement and that forward movement.
ACOG and SMFM working together had a tremendous legislative victory in December of 2018. Both organizations worked so hard for the passage of the Preventing Maternal Deaths Act. This important legislation provides support for state-based maternal mortality review committees across the country.
For many years, the field of pregnancy has been perceived as a period of 9 months in a woman's life, and once the baby comes out, everything restarts. We now have ample information that indicates that whatever happens during pregnancy has a marked impact not only on pregnancy outcome, but also on childhood health and wellness and on lifelong health and disease risk for populations. So we're now transitioning to a field that now truly addresses questions that impact human life for generations.
The best turning point of this organization from day one is the expansion. It hasn't been a little clique that only lets in your best friend. It's been welcoming, and that's not always true. We're inclusive, all inclusive. You're welcome.
There were several organizations that will remain unnamed, but who held academic-oriented meetings, but they were somewhat elite, hard to gain membership to, and didn't necessarily look with esteem on clinical medicine, where you touch patients and you're not working in a lab. This meeting was designed to bring maternal-fetal, obstetrical process to whoever was under that umbrella. And so we invited people to bring posters of their work or work in progress. Anybody that wanted access to present was included, and the poster session, I believe, was probably the first utilization of that type of presentation in the area of obstetrics and perinatal medicine.
At the very beginning, it was important to welcome people because we were still relatively new kid on the block, and we needed to build a base. We needed to make our organization and our meeting a place that if you were maternal-fetal medicine or related, you wanted to be with us. You wanted that experience. So we tried to be very inclusive, very welcoming. If there was someone with a problem, we would go out of our way to say, how can we help?
Pat Starr was the one who I had first met. And she was so welcoming to us. She offered us complimentary registration and offered us room space. Oftentimes I host my board meetings here. So as an organization, they have consistently been very welcoming and very embracing of the patient voice having a presence here.
I have heard in the sessions that I was in over and over from MFMs, from OB-GYNs, and from nursing, and from nurse midwives, how important it is for us to work together. That's been a generalized theme across the meetings that I've been in, and I have been very pleased by that.
There are record numbers of women and minorities in medicine right now. And what I love about SMFM is that we embody that change. You will find women and minorities who are involved at all levels, and in particularly in leadership. And as a middle-aged Black woman who practices maternal-fetal medicine, I am very excited to see that my organization represents me and my values. And that wasn't always the case. And so I am glad to see that SMFM has become so progressive.
We believe that international participation is really important at our meetings, so we proactively sought out international organizations in the maternal-fetal space and have that reciprocal relationship with them where we're present at their meetings and they come to our meeting.
As I became president into the year 2008, I really had a strong belief that it was important to be inclusive, transparent, and I really wanted to be fair to everybody. So the Society of Maternal-Fetal Medicine developed a whole lot of committees, and the committees then started to represent the entirety of the constituency. It was really exciting to see this inclusive nature of bringing people in, giving them clear purpose for what to do with the society, the autonomy to do it, and the ability to get better after year. I
think that was probably sort of the most exciting time for the society as well, because we made a bigger effort to try and really be more for the members and help them with things like practice, as well as the science, and it was more than just the academics. It became the academics, it became the people who were, in private practice, and how do our lives intersect. Quality and safety became a huge issue, and we were able to sort of impart knowledge about that.
What this society has that most societies don't have is what I call fanatical volunteerism. The members in this society are like no other members in any other society, in that they are willing to sit on committees, to do jobs and do tasks on their free time like I've never seen anywhere else.
I worked with 28 different program chairs, and the job description, if you published it, would have been long hours, lots of responsibility, no pay, headaches guaranteed. And yet every program chair voluntarily took on this role. And that's been the spirit that permeates the society, this spirit of volunteerism. And that's, I think, how the society has grown and achieved so much.
So it's grown, but I still think the closeness is there, but we have to continue that. The young people have to get around and meet other people. Go in a room and say, hi, do I know you? Where are you from? Because that is a benefit of this society. You then reach people who you may be doing some clinical research on and say, hey, I met Mary Jane at the meeting, and maybe she has the same interests. Or I met Bill Grubman, and I'd like to ask him a question. That's the feeling that we've had in the past, and I hope that we never get away from that feeling.
It always feels like coming home to family. And it's a huge family, and by no means do I know everybody, and everybody doesn't know me. And it really does feel like coming home in an environment where we are working on really hard problems, heartbreaking problems.
We're a society that builds upon our young people as well and builds people up. That's why this local high school outreach has been great for me, and I think the rest of our society.
Jim is a great mentor. He's been explaining everything very well so far. Like for everything I've had a question on, he's already jumped on it and started explaining it before I've even asked the question. Honestly, I'm having a very good time here right now.
We went to a poster about substance abuse, the use of opiates before pregnancy and during pregnancy, and I thought it was really interesting to learn that being in a group setting really affects the outcome and how well they can progress and improve.
Anything that sort of gets me back to being able to sort of teach on the ground and get people excited about what we get to do every day is just a real privilege.
So yeah, mentoring high school students has been, I think, the highlight of the meeting for me. To be able to talk about something that I like with people that are interested in it, to be able to share with young students the meaning that you can find in a career in healthcare, and just to find people to have that bug so early and be able to nurture it along in a short period of time in an environment which I love has been just great today.
I was able to talk to these giants in MFM at the annual meeting as a result of my wonderful mentor when I was a resident, Anthony Scione, who made a point to bring me around and introduce me to these people who we knew were going to be helping to shape my career for years to come. And so at these individual events, I would get, a handshake and a smile and, kind of, who are you, why are you here, what do you like about MFM? And it was wonderful.
What I am extraordinarily happy with is the caliber of people who are coming into our field. The Society of Maternal-Fetal Medicine has matured in such a way, and this annual meeting is so exciting and productive, that this is a major draw for people going into our field. And I think that the future of our field is just so strong because of
the quality of the people that are just dying to get into it. And I think that SMFM should be given a lot of credit for building the attractiveness of what we all do.
I cannot think of anything else in obstetrics or pregnancy that had such an impact as much as the annual meeting of the Society for Maternal-Fetal Medicine. The society is continuously working. We do that every day. But once a year, we all come together, the society members, the committees on the society, the board of the society, the staff of the society, guest members, international people. We connect with each other. We see what works in one place, what doesn't work in one place. We also help each other with advancing and advocating for research, for practice in pregnancy. There is nothing like that anywhere in the world. The impact over these 40 years has been almost like hundreds of years.
I haven't missed this meeting since I was a fourth-year resident. I come every year because I love the energy that I get from being with my colleagues. It feeds my soul, it totally does. And I'll miss something if I don't come.
Oh, I think the most satisfying to me is seeing the wonderful young people come up. I mean, they're just awesome. Thrills me.
The thing that I'm most passionate about is continuing on the good example that the older generation has set in terms of welcoming the newer members, making sure they find a path, being there to answer questions, volunteering my time and energy and money towards this wonderful society that's given us so much.
The secret of the meeting's success has always been the same thing. It's been the people. It's been the people that really have thought that it was much bigger than themselves. And it's been the people that have really given to others. And that has created a kind of society of everybody mutually giving back. And when you have a culture like that, you can't help but grow.